Again, this will be the People News. Not attorney, not giving legal advice. Educational purposes only. Arm yourself with knowledge. Use the Second Amendment, people, and be able to protect yourself by any means necessary. Okay? No matter which direction you go, the court system is corrupt. But if you want to give yourself a little bit more power to put them in a box, remember, learn how to do petition as well and use your constitutional rights to petition for judges to be impeached, especially when your paperwork says the people in there and not the person or not the 14th Amendment citizen, which goes back in my case in point on certain things. So, the 14th Amendment was really giving more privileges to slaves that was set free. Now, that being said, we do have legislative authority to extend the 14th Amendment to once that people were born here in the United States is no longer what you call the 14th Amendment. Okay? Now they become one of the people. It don't matter on any type of race. So we can get to our legislature and say, hey, we need to add amendment to the 14th Amendment, which will actually clear up a lot of stuff. And all you have to do is just do extension. And nowadays we don't have any type of bad things going on like the old days, you know. I'm not going to say these words, but, you know, um, but now since it's been kind of cleared up now, they can amend the 14th Amendment and make, you know, all men equal, like the good book says, and women and all that kind of stuff. So the 14th Amendment can be amended to actually start getting away from that persona of jurisdiction of a second class citizen. Okay? Now, obviously, they've been putting second, fourth, sixth, 10 citizens nowadays, but for that purposes only. Now, that being said, educational purposes only, not attorney, not giving legal advice, but it's highly my take, right? Over a period of time, due to documents going into court, let's argue with light shaded people, all right? And according to the 14th Amendment, are compared with the dark and light shaded people, right? Well, what they did is actually waived the white part, and now we're all stuck in the Fourth Amendment. So nobody's above anybody, and everybody's just got privileges, and they're all now subjects. We actually had to go back in the old days when white and when we had different particular shades of color in slavery, where they went in there and divided everybody. Okay, and all shades today need to quit being divided and realize the cause and effect of the 14th Amendment is what we're doing. So even our attorneys, well, they violate the 4th Amendment and the 14th Amendment. Well, wait a minute. How does that apply to me? Because the 4th Amendment's already there. The State Amendment's already there. So why do we even have to add the 14th Amendment? Violation is still violation. Okay? Well, it's due to the second class citizen. They got to stick the 14th Amendment in there because we all are now second class citizens. And we're all subjects. Well, what are subjects? Beneath the king. So what the government is telling you, and attorneys by using that, is that you are a subject. So we need to start waking up and realizing these little things. And they may not realize that's doing it, right? We've all been growing up with these things. We've had the same schooling, some a little bit more higher education, but we have not really researched the past to find out the cause and action. We've all been going by hearsay. and all these things. So let's go ahead and move forward on this, but it's something to, right? What I say all the time, never look straight forward. Always look around you, be able to protect yourself by any means necessary. Okay? I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying we may need to start thinking otherwise, because is our world better off now than it was then? Or is it worse, people? Sit and think about it. I mean, we're the ones that have these immunities because the people are sovereign, according to case law. But somehow or another, they give their sovereign citizen immunity and say we are subjects. Let's go.
It's dependent that it does not. For an indictment or information to be sufficient, the instrument must clearly state the facts proving this court can assume jurisdiction over the person. This statutory provision merely codifies the well-established principle that the courts acquire authority to adjudicate a matter when they have both subject matter and in persona jurisdiction. They have to have both.
They have to have both. Okay? And when you look right on the side there, it's people. Okay? And it's people. It's people, people, people. People versus, I'm going to spell it out to you so I don't mispronounce it. MACFARLENECO. Corporation. Okay? And then the other one is people versus MARZ, zebra, B, boy, A, apple, N, what is an N? Now, I guess. All right, sorry about that. Let's go.
Establishing jurisdiction on the charging instrument. At this point, we must address what it takes to show facts necessary to give the court jurisdiction to create a sufficient indictment or information. Under our constitutional system, as it has existed since the 14th Amendment was declared adopted on Thursday, July 9, 1868, two independent and distinct classes of citizens have existed in the several states. This is important.
Now, let's stop right here. So, educational purposes only, and I'm not 100% sure, but I'm about 99% sure. Okay? This is going to be the third video I did tonight, or early morning, however you want to look at it, right? These three people are basically talking about the exact same thing, and yet they don't never speak to one another, and they're getting the exact same thing out of it. Okay? The great thing about research on the internet is a whole lot easier than it was way back in the old days. It's not been really kept from us. Now, that being said, I have seen it in some of these paperwork, like corner law and all this kind of stuff. They actually been in there changing words as they go. So, you know, if we can help it, we need to get the original copies, because they keep changing these little words in the modern copies.
Information, because each class of citizens are under a completely different system of law, and the rights constitutionally secured to them are very different. The original class of citizens being only citizens of their respective states, made up of white citizens thereof, are required to be under a constitutional Republican form of government, wherein the several states and United States only have those powers over which they are clearly delegated to those government bodies by the constitutions by which they were created. The U.S. Supreme Court has stated that the powers that these government bodies can exercise are absolutely limited to clearly enumerated powers, and those clearly implied as necessary to carry out the clearly enumerated powers. Before the adoption of the 14th Amendment, the conduct of the citizens of the states, being only white people, were only limited in scope by the regulatory powers clearly delegated to the state via the relevant constitution. No power to regulate their conduct that exceeded that authority could be exercised. The courts have clearly stated that the 14th Amendment had no impact on the original citizens of the states. There are many citations on this available. This is true for two reasons. Number one, the constitutionally secured rights of white citizens of the several states, which are far superior in number to the rights secured to the new class of citizens, were already secured by their state constitution. As such, the original citizens of the states would have gained nothing from this new amendment, even if it had been able to attach to them. Number two, constitutionally, Congress was without the power to reach out to the states and make those people citizens of the United States. To impose this new federal citizenship created by the 14th Amendment upon the existing citizens of the several states would have stripped them of the vast majority of the rights secured to them by their states' constitutions. The U.S. Supreme Court has correctly made it clear that once rights attach, they cannot be diminished by any means. Due to this foundational constitutional principle, the original citizens of the states and their posterity retain all the rights their ancestors secured for themselves and their posterity, and those like them that had later emigrated to the several states. In fact, the fact that the municipal statutory trial courts are acting on a policy to ignore this fact does not change the Constitution and make their actions legal. Such actions are simply unconstitutional acts committed under the color of law and authority. Citizens via the 14th Amendment. The federal courts, including the U.S. Supreme Court, have clearly stated citizens of the 14th Amendment are first and foremost citizens of the federal government. Their few rights arise only on the federal level. This is very important because the United States is under a completely different system of law from the several states. It is a system of law that, as can be seen in Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2, grants the United States almost unlimited regulatory powers over them. This applies even if they are resident in one of the several states. The courts have made it very clear that unlike the white citizens of the several states, those rights arise from the state constitutions of their domicile, and this new class of citizens derives no rights from the constitution of the state in which they reside. That means that even in the states, all the state has to do is avoid depriving them of the unlimited form of a limited form of due process before punishment, and avoid depriving them of certain other rights that Congress and the U.S. Supreme Court has declared to apply to them under these conditions as per Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2. The state and local governments are free to impose any law or rule upon them they please, even if they are municipal corporations, so long as the law or rule can be proven to be needful and not merely oppressive upon challenge. In the simplest terms, the limitations imposed on the several states and the United States via their constitutions over the white people of the several states are not binding upon the several states, and the United States, when making and imposing laws and rules upon citizens via the 14th Amendment and foreign aliens within the several states. In fact, it has been held that the long arm of Congress follows its citizens even into foreign countries, and the United States citizen can be punished upon their return for conduct that is legal in the foreign country if it is deemed illegal by the United States or the Union state of their residence. Does anybody remember when the Kavanaugh hearings, when Kavanaugh was being interviewed for the Supreme Court? They asked him...
Oh, sorry to interrupt, but Mr. Catholic noble citizen, oh yeah, I could not forget that one.
Yeah, Well, they asked him, they said, can we go after a U.S. citizen in Afghanistan? And he said, yes, you can. And that's actually, see, this is why I like this so much, because he doesn't tell you why, okay? He doesn't tell you, because it's the Commerce Clause, okay? That's why. But anyways, he doesn't tell you that. He just makes these statements, and they're true. They're all true. Anyways, system of law. And he goes, it's pretty brilliant, because he calls it a secret law. And that's brilliant. He doesn't tell them it's admiralty. He tells them it's just a secret law that you're imposing on me. And he wants to know what the secret law is. They'll never tell him, okay? Because if they did, that would be perjury of oath, okay? That's treason. If they admit to imposing this, there's a thing called treason, okay? Breach of trust. And when we, the people, are the king, then it's treason to get us into a contract that we don't know that we're in, okay? That's treason. And so he's making it so that they got to tell him what the law is, and they'll never admit it. So they're going to want to make this thing go away is what's going to happen. Anyways, so let's continue. The Constitution...
Right? Because in order to do that, when you challenge jurisdiction, right, they have to tell you. And the Supreme Court's over and over and over told them they have to do this. So even the Supreme Court is going to kind of back away from it anymore. They've already been clearly established that all the courts must tell y'all what jurisdiction it is. And yet everybody's ignoring it. So I'm led to believe the Supreme Court's going to ignore it and say, I need this to disappear. Right? Because allegedly it's going to cause our country to go into chaos. But the only time we're in chaos is when innocent people have been beaten, stabbed, robbed, pillaged, and domestic abused upon. So it's already happened.
Of the several states only recognize the common law as being able to be imposed upon their true citizens, and those constitutions only authorize the protection of a white citizen of a state to take place in a judicial branch court under the rules of the common law. There shall be a public prosecutor whose goal is to try and punish those that clearly appear guilty of crimes recognized by the state constitution. In all prosecutions of criminal offenses, the accused shall have, unless they waive it, a trial by jury.
Yeah. Facts and the law. Who's the man or woman making a claim? Who's the injured party? Not none of this other crap. That's a bill of attainder. All right? Well, you speeding. So we're going to... You had to pay $200. That's a bill of attainder. All right. There we go, y'all. Again, just think outside the box. I'm just showing you what I've seen and what my... Granted, I have not seen all this, but I believe these things are true due to my research and my understanding of what I have read. Now, again, with this right here, this guy puts these things in words. Awesome. He calls them out on it, right? And I guess we need to start using that word, you know, instead of saying amnesty or anything like that, or even bring it up. What jurisdiction? All right? This will be the People News. Bye, y'all.